Okay, part 5, some anecdotal evidence of indoctrination. This is firsthand. And the examples of this are legion. I mean, just listen to some talk shows. The kids calling in saying, this is what happened in school today. What do I do? How do I get a grade? I have to act like a liberal to get a passing grade. I mean, it goes on and on. The evidence of eliminating valedictorian speeches so the dumb kids don't feel bad. The elimination of, all these traditional things so that that success becomes relative and it becomes relatively downgraded. We don't raise the kids up, make them smarter so they're smart as the smart kids. No, we stop the thinkers and the great thinkers and the successful by making their achievements less so the dumb kids don't have to feel so bad. We dumbing them down. Anecdotal evidence up the yin-yang. Here's a few dozen to prove the point. Federal databases that track, and some of these are just comments and not actuarials, but one thing that's going on is that federal databases are created that track behavior and performance of public school systems to mine data regarding their health care, voting status of them and their parents, and much, much more. The Green Agenda is pushed, training children to watchdog and correct their own parents. Sound like Nazi Germany to anybody? Telling on your parents? A major increase in children arrested for nonviolent offenses, such as burping. A student was handcuffed and zip-tied on his hands and feet, forced to a hospital for psychiatric evaluation, and was charged with battery on a police officer. That child was 5 years old. You can look it up, folks. Nearly 1/3 of all Americans have been arrested by the time they reach 23. The U.S. has the highest incarceration rate and the largest prison population in the world. Society, though, continues to be more unstable. And yet the schools are continuing to arrest kids for the smallest of violations to keep them in line, under control. And why do they need that control? Why do they need them so much in the classroom? Why do they need that? Students are being taught that the First Amendment doesn't apply in public schools, meaning they don't have that right as students. Pretty sure they were born with that right. We talked about that. Expressions of free speech are being cracked down upon. Examples of students being suspended for Tebowing in the school halls, meaning getting on a knee and praying. Named after Tim Tebow, who did that every time he scored a touchdown and was castigated by the left mercilessly. Didn't stop him, though. Sex education classes are crossing the line. Many courses are indoctrinating children about sex. Examples of 10 and 11-year-old children being given cards depicting graphic sex acts to teach them about the risks of sexually transmitted diseases. And the stories are legion about what grammar school and even kindergarten students are being taught by these advocacy groups being brought into the schools to get them all prepped up early to accept what would be considered by many people, even to this day, as, if not amoral, certainly questionable behavior. A recent study shows sexual content between teen girls in the United States is at the highest levels ever recorded. You're going to tell me that homosexuality is genetic? Then explain that. It is not growing at an unprecedented rate because of genetics. It is a lifestyle being not just taught in school as being okay, but probably promoted at some subliminal or worse level. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some schools require students to don jerseys which have RFID chips stitched into them to record their movements, collecting attendance and meal data. Police hand out tickets for cursing in class in some elementary schools. Police in Texas, police have given out 1,000 tickets over a recent 6-year period for cursing. Tickets. Not just go see the principal anymore. Students in kindergarten, first grade in New Jersey are required to participate in monthly anti-terrorism drills with a pretense of either a bomb threat, evacuation, lockdown, active shooter, or in-place shelter drill. Kindergarten and first graders. Required. Now, when I was a kid, it was during the time of the Cold War. And the last Friday of every month, in California anyway, we had a fire drill. We had a duck and cover drill. The idea of it was not given to the students, the reason for it, but historically the reason for it was the air raid sirens would go off to make sure they were working in preparation of a nuclear attack. Face away from the windows, cover your head with your hands, face away from the glass, get under your desk. But now we're scaring very young children about terrorism. Now, preparedness is one thing. I'm just wondering if there's a alternative motive behind that. Armed cops and police dogs actually conduct surprise raids with guns drawn. Videos show officers aiming their guns at children lined up facing the wall. These videos are, you can go see them. Government encourages children to spy on their parents as part of the war on terror, supposedly. They have a different definition of what the war on terror is. If school officials hear that a parent has said the wrong thing, that parent potentially could be labeled as a potential threat. I'm betting that they're talking more about if their parents are racist or anti-Islamic, that war on terror, meaning the anti-war on terror that the left engages in. California, a high school student was suspended for 2 days because he had private conversations with classmates where he discussed Christianity. He was also banned from bringing his Bible to school ever again. Tolerant much? In 2009, an 8-year-old in Massachusetts was sent home and forced to undergo a psychological exam because he drew a picture of Jesus on the cross. Again, the humanity. This poor child must be brainwashed. He must be insane. We must prevent him from going down the dark path of believing in God or Jesus. Students have also been arrested for the following: bringing a plastic butter knife to school, throwing an eraser, drawing a picture of a gun, having a temper tantrum, doodling on their desk, etc., etc. When I say that the arrests and the making of kids into criminals, you might have thought I exaggerated. All of this is documented evidence of this happening. Look it up for yourselves. The Florida Department of Juvenile Justice will be using analysis software to predict crime by young delinquents. Are they already delinquents? And will place these potential offenders in specific prevention and education programs. We're talking about pre-crime. We're talking about thought police. We're talking about Big Brother Orwellian moves in Florida. In Texas, a student was ordered to stand up and recite the Mexican national anthem and the Mexican Pledge of Allegiance. Why would that be necessary in an American classroom? How does that help advance the kids' education? American diversity classes in Wisconsin teaches if you are white, you are oppressing. And if you are not, you've been a victim. Fifth grader in Texas learned that 9/11 was caused by decisions made by the United States that had negative effects on people elsewhere. Yes, they're being taught that we're to blame for 9/11. Not shocking. A principal in Massachusetts had banned celebrations of Columbus Day and Thanksgiving because they were American atrocities parading as historical holidays. A teacher in Virginia gave his students an assignment to research every Republican president candidate. This obviously was in the last election cycle. For their weaknesses. Study the Republican candidates for their weaknesses in themselves and in their policies, their positions. That data was then compiled to create a strategy paper on how best to exploit those weaknesses, and it was then sent to the Obama campaign. I crap you not. In 2010, high school teachers held anti-war signs during a ceremony honoring grads who were going to enter the military. There is video showing young students being taught a new song when Obama was elected. It went like this. Obama loves me, this I know, 'cause the party told me so. And that's not the only video evidence of sycophantic imagery with regard to Obama. Now, if you think that those anecdotal evidence that I found is undocumented, because I'm not saying who and where and times and dates and giving you the links, because how do I give you a link on a video of my own? I'll give you a documentation of anecdotal evidence written by a student himself who makes himself known. This was written in July of 2017 by a man named John Hinderaker. And he wrote, "Left-wing indoctrination in schools, it's worse than you think." Well, he wasn't the student. He was the student comes later. But anyway, I want you to listen to this very closely. I'm going to read it quickly and just blow through it, but this will blow your mind. Edina High School in suburban Minneapolis was long regarded as one of the country's top secondary schools. In recent years, its national ratings and its local reputation have slipped. Perhaps in part because teachers are spending their time promoting a left-wing agenda and bullying conservative students rather than teaching the subjects they are paid to teach. Following last November's election, so obviously this was from 2017, 80 Edina High School teachers, which must represent pretty much the entire faculty, signed an editorial in the school's newspaper that was basically a Democratic Party manifesto. The editorial was authorized by Tim Klobuchar, whoever that is. It went so far as to oppose calls for unity. Unity, it applied, will exist only when all conservatives have been banished from the stage. We learned of the editorial and other events surrounding the election just a few days ago, and I wrote about left-wing indoctrination at Edina High School on Center of the American Experiments website. Feel free to go look at it. This caused more students and teachers to get in touch with us. And I did follow-up posts, and he has links to them. Stories about abuse at the hands of bullying left-wing teachers continue to come in. Not many things shock me, but I confess I have been shocked by what I've learned about the Edina public school system. Indoctrination of left-wing politics begins in elementary school, where children are taught pernicious doctrine of white privilege. In Edina, not even bus drivers are exempt. They too require political re-education classes. Here are some excerpts of the communications we have gotten between a dean of parents and students. There are lots more at the links that he provides. This is from one student. The day after the election, I was texting my mom to pick me up from school, and she almost had to. Every teacher was crying in class and even told the whole class, Trump winning is worse than 9/11 and the Columbine shooting. The amount of liberal propaganda that was pushed every single day in class this year was worse than it's ever been, and you're bullied by the teachers and every student if you dare speak against it. Yeah, it's horrible. Teachers can absolutely do whatever they want. The administration will do nothing about it. The day of the election, every single student was in the common chanting, F Trump, F Trump. And the teachers never did anything. A lot of people are starting to complain, and my mom has some friends who are leaving the school district. Here's a parent describing her daughter being abused in class in an email to a school administrator. In talking with my daughters, it came out that yesterday in my 10th graders AP World class, teacher called out any Trump supporters and asked them to assure the class that they weren't racist. Both my husband and I were aghast, and we felt strongly that we should say something to you. Yesterday's incident in her class really surprised us, as it is so completely inappropriate and unprofessional. If you talk with the teacher about this, please don't mention my daughter. She doesn't want to be identified for fear of retribution. That's illegal, by the way. Just ask any HR department in any job or any other place. Retribution. It's a no-no. The fear of retaliation is a common theme in emails and comments we have gotten from students and parents. Left-wing teachers and administrators are often vicious. Another parent said, we're tired of them trying to indoctrinate our children to believe what they believe, rather than teaching critical thinking and actual coursework. We're tired of our kids coming home feeling defeated because their beliefs are forbidden at school, and they will be ostracized if they speak out. We're tired of our kids telling us that they hear, all they hear in LA and other classes is that white people, especially white men, are bad over and over. We're absolutely sickened when our son tells us that he is labeled a racist, sexist, and rapist. Yes, a rapist, because he is a white male. Race plays a surprisingly prominent role in liberals' bullying. Adena is not exactly known as a multicultural city. This account by a student of events surrounding November's election is very sad. I was one of 6 leaders of the Young Conservatives Club, which, in our group message, had close to 200 participants. During the election, we felt like the minority, which we were. The day of election, a group of us, maybe 20 to 30 kids, chose to wear political shirts to school. I wore a Trump shirt while other people were wearing Hillary shirts or Bernie shirts. I knew walking to school that was going to be an odd day, but I had no idea what was really in store for me. I walked into morning rehearsal at choir at 7:15 a.m. and I proudly wore my shirt. As I took my seat, I could see and feel eyes on me and people whispering. I kept my head up and was proud. Then I got to the cafeteria, where I like to meet my friends before school starts and in between classes. People were glaring at me, whispering, challenging me on my views. People called me racist to my face and over social media, and I experienced public humiliation. During lunch, the YCC, the Young Conservatives Club, had asked for a picture, group picture with our Trump shirts on. And by 6th hour, when all I wanted was to go home and lie in bed after a day of bullying, a staff member pulled me out of class. And as I was leaving the classroom, a girl said, "How ugly is that shirt, haha," commenting on my Trump shirt. The staff member pulled me out of class, Not to ask me about my day, how it was going, or if I was emotionally okay. No. But his question for me was, I heard there were students in the YCC picture yelling, "Deportation," as the picture was taken. Is that true? I assured him that no, it wasn't true. But he kept asking me as if he didn't believe me. Finally, I got go back to the last 5 minutes of class and then go home. The next day after Trump won was even harder. Teachers were crying alongside students in the classroom. Speeches by teachers include the phrase, "We will make it through this together." One teacher said in front of a class of 100, a class of 100? Oh, this is college. Doesn't sound like it. One teacher said in front of a class of 100 through tears that the election was rigged. Teachers bashed President Trump in front of their students, and people continue to bully me for my views. I had to have my mom pick me up after third hour that day. Not college. I couldn't stand to walk around the school filled with both teachers and students crying and looking at me through their tears with hurtful eyes. I'm not kidding when I say so many people were crying that walking through school felt like someone had died or something. We will make it through this together? Do the liberals not realize how ridiculous they sound? The ridiculousness will continue in part 6.